I've actually been starting to think about it more on an emotional level, like not necessarily a reality, like day-to-day politics, stats and all that, but on an emotional level, I find the left to be extremely emotionally honest and the right to be extremely emotionally dishonest.
Really?
And absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
interesting.
I have your chat open here, and they hated my analysis of this. I love how much they hated.
Well,
what did they?
I am Lauren Southern, and I am mature now and above it all. I see these groups as mere study subjects, and I'm detached from their folly. Actually, no, it's because I'm very attached to their folly, right? Like, I come from the traditional conservative, ooh-woo, trad wife 2016 world, and I know it's a lot more complicated than how I portrayed a lot of these things when I was younger as well. I'm going in hard on conservatives on this just because this is a thought process I've been having a lot lately, because I'm working on a video.
You are free to think aloud here. Do not let the chat constrain you. Oh, I feel like Lauren joined the call. What's up?
Just been sitting here chilling.
How are you?
Oh,
Don't worry about me.
Well, you're technically early. Hold on, let me finish my thought here on the
Absolutely.
Never mind. I lost it anyway. Let me bring you up. You can't. I'm not on camera. Lauren Southern has joined the call. I'm not on camera for you, Lauren. I'm gonna put you in the show. My camera is going into OBS. So.
Okay, yeah, no worries. I can't figure out any of that stuff either.
That's cool.
Don't worry about it.
We didn't tease because we didn't know if you were going to be able to deal with your scheduling conflict. So, but welcome.
Yeah. I'm glad I could make it. You're killing it at Mom Life over here, making it work.
Nice.
I'm so sad. I'm so mad you're watching this debate.
Yeah, you're in this debate.
Wait, what? What's wrong?
I was so out of my depth in this debate. Like, unbelievably. Oh my gosh. I read Klaus Schwab's book, right? I was kind of preparing for a lot of the social impacts. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time in Australia. I've seen the changes we've made when it comes to travel policy, the tracking apps, digital identity, cashless society. So I was getting ready to talk about a lot of that, hyper surveillance. And then the whole debate ended up being about ESGs and economics. And like, I know what I know, I know what I kind of know, and I know what I don't know. And economics is just not my expertise.
Right.
I just got to sit there quietly in the corner, like with cheeky banter with James, if you see us whispering to each other throughout the debate.
I know there's been a lot of times where like I'm trying to prepare for some debate or something. I read up and do all this research on like what I think it's going to be about. And then the person shows up and it's about something I know nothing about and don't even care about. I'm just like, why are we having this conversation? No.
I had at least some level of self-awareness I think someone in the chat just mentioned it. They were like, Lauren was pretty quiet the whole debate. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's better than going up there and trying to insert yourself in the conversation and just looking silly. So, which I think Peter did that a couple times, but listen. I
love that it was just Peter and James agreeing.
That's just so weird. Yeah, who would have ever suspected that in a million years? If you're telling me that Peter Coffin and James Lindsay were going to go on stage and just agree with each other against Destiny, that would have blown my mind. But
so we were going to talk a little bit, I think, about a left and right perspective. And thanks for coming on the show. I guess some of our fans reached out to you and it's
constantly berating me. Your fans are next level with that.
YouTube is so strange because it's a lot like a reality television show. Like everybody wants everybody to talk to one another, to have a conversation with one another. Do you sense that as well? Am I way off base here?
Yeah, I mean, certain communities. I feel like a lot of the communities I used to be a part of in 2016, like early right-wing YouTube, they really siloed themselves and no one would intermingle. But now I think people are really sick of that and tired of it. And they're starting to enjoy content creators that have that cross-pollination a bit more and can actually have reasonable conversations, not just blood sports, although that's fun every once in a while too.
Right.
Yeah, you're pretty good at that stuff, actually. You've had some pretty spicy debates with other YouTubers. So I like the fact that you get in the ring and are willing to have a good blood sport.
Yeah, well, I think there was a lot of a lot of larger creators got this idea that they had nothing to gain from debates, which is kind of true because you've already got the platform, so you can just talk all day. And the only real thing that could happen if you go do a debate is you can lose it and humiliate yourself and lose fans, or you can win it and get a lot of views, which you already get anyways. So a lot of, you know, the Hassans of the world, even I don't want to name any right-wing creators,
name some names.
Name some names, but you'll never see like a PJW go and do a debate with like lefties on Twitch. You'll never see a Hassan go and maybe a bit here and there, but not as often as a lot of the panel lefties that are on Twitch every day. And I think it should happen more often for sure.
Well, I apologize in advance for Lucifer the Doberman or Jab Slant or whoever it was that kept pestering you to come on.
Lucifer the Doberman. Yep. I saw him in my chat a few times yesterday and the week before and the week before.
So I've been watching your content for some time. You did a video I told you about that really resonated with me a long time ago about the left and right political spectrum, which I thought was super interesting. And in that video, you kind of conceptualized the left as being the adventurous side of the equation, and the right being the conservative side. Obviously, I think you used a metaphor where you were like, the left is the one that wants to see what's on the other side of the hill, and the right is like, no, we've got it good here. Let's stay here where it's safe. So that is the way that I kind of conceptualize left and right, very much as like an offense and defense on a team. And I get a lot of pushback from people, and the left and right paradigm is sort of people are playing around with it and there's all these other different left-right spectrums. So I'm not saying that that's 100% left and right, but it's a good starting point.
Yeah, I've actually been starting to think about it more on an emotional level, like not necessarily a reality, like day-to-day politics, stats and all that, but on an emotional level, I find the left to be extremely emotionally honest and the right to be extremely emotionally dishonest.
Really?
And absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
interesting.
When it comes to facts and logic and all of that, the right absolutely will adhere to that and say things to your face that you don't want to hear. But when it comes to their emotions about the world, they're extremely guarded. And what happens in this dichotomy is I found you'll have all these leftists that are having these really open, honest conversations, and right-wingers look over at them and they're mortified, right? They're like, this is like insane, disgusting degeneracy, the stuff you guys are talking about and being open about. Like, I just did a bunch of LSD and had an orgy and a polyamorous kind of stuff. They're having conversations on Twitch debate about that. And I might be a woman today or a man today. And like every thought that comes into their head, that even if a conservative had that sort of thought, they'd like just shoot it down and be like, okay, that's, you know, I don't have time for that. I got a job to get to. But they're like hyper honest to the point of almost being debilitating to themselves, because they'll entertain thoughts in their own head that they don't necessarily need to, right? But then you'll have right wingers, and I've met a lot of these people. They've got a way they want the world to be. They want structure, they want hierarchy, and a lot of them deviate from it. That's the truth. The meme about conservatives going and like, oh, he said he's against gay marriage and he's secretly gay. A lot of that is true, that trope, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean they don't believe what they're saying, because there are a lot of conservative hypocrites. I think maybe some of them, conservatives that preach traditionalism but don't really live that life, maybe they want to, or they see their personal failings, so they are telling the world an honest truth, but then they're hypocritical in their own life. What happens is, a lot of conservatives don't really get to explore the mistakes they're making, the troubles with their ideology, because they don't feel there's an open enough space to discuss how they really feel about some issues, because that will appear like leftist degeneracy, right? But then the leftists go too far and they have completely disorganized emotional lives. Well, that's how I've been kind of looking at it lately.
Well, this is a weird thing, because there are people in the political space that are, building a brand around being a certain type of politics that I don't necessarily know if they have those moral intuitions that go along with that sort of political inclination. Like, I see people acting like conservatives, kind of like you're saying, But really, you know, you hear them talk and they're kind of just faking it. Like they're wearing a conservative skin or a liberal skin or a communist skin or whatever it is. But if you dig down in, and both of us are huge fans of Jonathan Haidt and like moral foundations theory, where he kind of lays out the inclinations about the various political perspectives. One of them is openness to new experience. Like the left just has that in spades, and it's probably why they're willing to jump on a live stream and start talking about their orgy use and LSD use. And when the conservatives, they cringe at that because they aren't as open to those experiences, and they would never do that. And they, much less if they did it, they would never want to talk about it. So that's just very basic moral intuition that I don't necessarily know. You know, if somebody does a video and the algorithm and grabs them and blows them up as a conservative, they're going to be pushing themselves to be more conservative, even if they don't necessarily have those moral intuitions, because of the huge status burst that this being in the public eye has put on them. And I've seen a lot of creators do that. Is that something like, tell us a little bit about how you came to prominence. Did you discover Jordan Peterson? Are you responsible for Jordan Peterson? I'm curious because it seems like you might be.
I have your chat open here, and they hated my analysis of this. I love how much they hated.
Well, what did they?
I am Lauren Southern, and I am mature now, and above it all, I see these groups as mere study subjects, and I'm detached from their folly. Actually, no, it's because I'm very attached to their folly, right? Like I come from the traditional conservative ooh-woo trad wife 2016 world, and I know it's a lot more complicated than how I portrayed a lot of these things when I was younger as well. I'm going in hard on conservatives on this just because this is a thought process I've been having a lot lately, because I'm working on a video.
You are free to think aloud here. Do not let the chat constrain you. I know that a lot of people, they think because I am in tribe conservative or I am in tribe liberal that every thought and inclination that I have is the same exact thought and inclination that everyone in my tribe has. I do not believe that at all. I think conservatives, there's a wide range of different types of conservatives. So don't let them stifle you.
I know what the problem is. I know what got Chad upset. It's framing it as honest versus dishonest. Because as soon as you do that, you just lose everyone on the right. Because they're like, I'm not dishonest. What are you talking about?
Right.
So maybe you need like slightly like a different word, like maybe openness to experience versus, reservedness or something.
Right. You're right. I think reservedness about one's own life experience. And that's not always a bad thing. Like you don't want to walk into a room and be like, even if you're in a super traditional marriage, all this, you don't want to walk into a room and be like, hey, this is the kind of crazy sex I like to have with my husband or wife. People are like, whoa, that's a bit, you're sharing a bit much. So,
right.
But I think there's, I think the internet definitely, and being a public figure, forces you into extreme versions of the openness with the left and extreme versions of the reservedness with the right, to the point where the right will be so reserved about real life experiences sometimes that it does come off as a bit of a mask image. But yeah, it depends. You pick your poison, right? Would you rather have extreme disorder or extreme order that might just be a bit duct taped together and not quite as orderly behind the scenes?
Well, that's the problem is, as enlightened centrist, okay, we need to have some balance, some middle ground here. You can't walk around being open to every experience, because then someone's like, hey, do you want to take some heroin? And you're like, yes, I'm completely open to all experiences. Let me shoot up some heroin right here on the street. But you can't be so closed to everything that, you're set in your ways and you'll never learn how to do, new things, which could be better or more efficient or whatever. And you basically just die. And we kind of, me and Adam tend to look at things through an evolutionary perspective. And we tend to look at things like the left being open and the right being traditional or closed. These are evolutionary beneficial. The tribe needs to be open to some extent to new ideas. Otherwise, it won't be able to respond to changes in the environment. It won't be able to respond to any changes in the life of the tribe, and thus will die. But it also needs to you also need to conserve traditions that work for it. You can't just keep changing things to change things. You need to conserve ideas and things that have brought, past productivity and past benefits to the tribe. And so you need to find sort of like this middle ground here. And it seems like, I think as you were saying, that right now in online politics, it's kind of pushing the extremes of both ends here.
Yeah, but you know what? Everyone hates more than an extremist on either end.
A centrist, yes.
Fucking centrist.
Sturdy,
Absolutely.
Are you still
centrist,
calling?
yes.
There was a big hubbub when you came back because you called yourself a centrist. I think a lot of people got triggered by that, but we got triggered because you're horning in on our brand. So.
Well, you know what's crazy? Not once in that video did I call myself a centrist. I found that very funny, though. I lost a ton of subscribers. In fact, the only thing I said in that video was I am not a centrist.
Really?
Absolutely.
It's all fake news. Oh my God.
But people, there's a whole heck of a lot of fake news out there about yours truly. But a lot of people interpreted me saying the simple statement of, I think we should consider both sides, as me being a centrist. I said, I want to look at both sides. I still have a conservative lens by which I interpret the world for the most part, but I want to make sure with any issue, I hear both sides. And the fact that there were hundreds of thousands of people that saw that as, you're a centrist now, you can't be a conservative anymore, I'm going to unsubscribe. I was like, damn, if you think conservatism means siloing yourself off completely and never listening to the other side, I don't want to be a conservative, right? Yeah. Whatever your brand is, I don't want anything to do with it.
It is frustrating. It seems like, especially on the internet, like, we'll say something too. We'll make like a very specific claim, and then a lot of people will like read 3 steps into it. And then whatever the 3 steps into it will become the straw man that defines you. And it's like impossible.
So someone in your chat just said, but Lauren, the problem with you right now is you do a lot of both sides arguments, even when debating people on the left who only attack the right. You don't hold a political position just so it can be the opposite of the person you're debating. Because someone I am debating is constantly attacking the right doesn't mean I'm going to become a retard like them and only attack the left. Like, I'm going to just say what's true. If I happen to agree, like, I'm not going to stop drinking water because the lefty I'm debating is also drinking water on the stream, right?
So Hitler drank water bad.
So what is that conservative lens? You said you're going to look at things with a conservative lens. So that's kind of useful in the left-right thing.
Yeah, like, I absolutely believe we need more structure than what we've got right now in society. I believe we are deconstructing all of these institutions and ideas about the world, whether it be as simple as having women and men, right? Having them in separate biological categories. We need these sort of things to function and understand the world around us. And we're kind of pulling that mat from beneath kids' feet today, which I'm sure is making it a very, very confusing world for them. It's already a confusing world without even knowing what gender you're going to pick going into elementary school, right? So I absolutely do take a more conservative approach in believing in hierarchy, structure, tradition, definitely on a lot of political issues, immigration, moderation. But I'd say I have to watch myself because my frustration with the online right-wingers pushes me left sometimes, and I have to make sure I'm not just being a reactionary.
Yeah.
Well, what about the online right bothers you? You listen. Yeah, we spend like 90% of our channel just crapping on the far left here, so the chat can take a little bit of shade.
Well, we have recently had some run-ins with the neo-reactionary crowd.
Right.
Like, we've had some debates with neo-reactionaries and find them very frustrating because their moral intuitions seem to be exactly the same as the critical race theorists, but they don't seem to realize it. So that just wanting to tear down society inclination that is in critical race theory is pretty much exactly the same in the neo-reactionaries.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of the same tropes on both sides. I was just having a bit of a tweet storm about it with Sydney Watson the other day. You'll get these people that come into like the right-wing sphere, especially young women who aren't married and have no children. I know this.
Look at you throwing down.
No, because I did this too. Like, I know this is like a me thing. I'm actually criticizing myself. You can come into these spheres and just be like, repeal the 19th. I'm based, right? just say shit like that. And you'll get like 90% of the algorithm is men watching. That's just the truth for most political content. So it's like an instant, I know I'm going to get validation. It's like a man walking into one of those pussy hat walks and being like, believe all women.
Yeah.
It is best desperate for pussy voice possible, right? And you'll have people come to these spheres, repeal the 19th. And it's like, do you really mean that? Or are you just posting this for like shits and giggles? And then some people will actually go and full on defend it. Well, yeah, we do need to get rid of women's rights. And it's like, okay, so you're a young woman and you want to repeal the 19th and you're getting all these likes and hits on social media. Great. Log off, go to the kitchen. Like, you know,
kind of a dead end. Yes.
But no one, a lot of people are just, you know, they're just trying to get those internet hits with the edgy takes, right? It's not a whole lot of it applies to their actual life or experience in the world.
Can you get in trouble? It seems like, are you worried about saying something that is going to lose you audience share? So, I mean, there are people like that are just totally obsessed with audience share. We're not, I wouldn't call us in that category at all. So
what do you, am I afraid of saying things that's going to lose me audience share? I'm not worried about losing any audience. If I were, no, I'm not worried about that. I don't like gossip. I don't like gossip.
Right. So you just don't want to gossip.
Gossip's like the best thing ever. What are you talking about?
You just don't want to gossip about people. Can we talk? I mean, I have a whole slew of questions about Lance and your debate with the little bitch known as the Serf. So, I mean, I guess we can't talk about that because you don't like gossip.
No, that's not gossip. That's all public stuff. Okay, so when we're talking about like my problem with the right, like I can touch on some public things, obviously, but most of my problems are just informed by my personal experience.
Right. So they're private conversations.
That's why. Yeah.
You know.
So does it play on?
But I'm still right wing.
Does it all these people and they're big phonies? Lauren Southern says,
see,
they're
that's
all phonies.
That's my question.
Then of course everyone thinks I'm a big phony too, so it doesn't really matter. So there's almost no point in being like, well, that person's a grifter, because then you'll have 10 people pointing grifter back at you. So I'm very black pilled on it. So
you don't, Lauren, you don't strike me as a phony, but I maybe you are. I have no idea. This is like my first interaction with you.
You'll never know. So many people think I am. So that's just funny.
Well, it seems like whenever anyone changes their opinion on anything, they get labeled a grifter or a phony, which to me is the exact opposite. If you can publicly change your opinion on something, it shows that you generally it's safer not to change your opinion.
So this is an interesting dichotomy I observed, and it's hard. What was it? I'm reading right now. Where is it? Radical Chic by Tom Wolfe. Have you heard of him?
No.
Okay, never mind. It's a critique of liberal elites having parties for the Black Panthers in New York in the 60s. But anyways,
oh my God.
Someone asked him about like why he wrote this book, like criticizing a bunch of his friends. And he mentions in this interview with William F. Buckley, there was a communist writer who went to Cuba and wrote an essay critiquing communism. Sorry, I'm getting on like a whole line here. And before he wrote the essay, he was like, I just want everyone to know, like, I am a hardcore communist. I've marched with Fidel Castro. I have supported this movement. But some of these things I'm going to write in here are going to be uncomfortable, and they're going to make the revolution look bad, and they're going to make us look bad. But truth in its own way is always revolutionary. So I just need to tell the truth about what is really going on here. And that's, I forgot where I was going. Where did I start that sentence?
Well, we're definitely team truth here. So I mean,
wait, no, I'm serious. Where did I start that sentence? I was going somewhere with that.
We're just
we're about changing your opinion publicly.
Yeah, we're trying to assess whether or not. Well, we've all been called grifters, but we're trying to assess whether or not you're a grifter. I guess you're trying to assess at the same time whether or not we're grifters, but we can tell you.
I don't think you're grifters. I don't.
I mean, Adam came out in favor of the Great Reset before you came on, so I don't think he's a grifter.
I wasn't.
Okay, sorry. I've just remembered where I'm going, and I know I'm going to forget it.
Go ahead.
But yeah. So I feel like going into a lot of those conversations, like I have to be like, yeah, you know what? Like I still support all of this stuff, but a lot of the things I'm going to have to say are going to make people uncomfortable. They make people uncomfortable, and then they assume you're a grifter or an Antifa spy or whatever. But if you don't do that, then you end up in a position that I have friends in right now who are in alternative media. They're in, especially like when they were in the alt-right circles, their whole sale point is we are so different from the mainstream media. We are not captured, right? We are not a slave to our corporate overlord. Sure, but now you're a slave to your audience Because if you say something that your audience opposes and they all unfollow you and stop donating, you can't get a job in the real world. You're done for. If you were in like these alt-right communities, like so done for. It's terrifying, point, right? Yeah. So they're just as captured as the mainstream media to some degree, sadly. And that's not to say they're wrong about everything or they're intentionally being that way, but they would certainly have factors pushing on them to continue saying narratives that they might not even believe themselves.
I think audience capture is the term these days for that. And we've made a conscious effort to avoid that, to avoid audience capture. And since we are not really, I mean, everyone hates centrists. So we never really anticipated growing a large audience based on without, the tribalist element is why a lot of people watch political content. So if we're not fully engaging in that tribalist attitude, then, you're not really going to become a huge thing on YouTube, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so was that, like, back to the original question, and obviously, I don't want to ask you, this isn't, I'm totally Dave Rubining it here. This is not supposed to be a hard-hitting interview. So if you're uncomfortable answering any of these questions, you can pass. I'm curious about like your journey, because I think you did jump in at a very young age, just being like, I am on the right. I'm a conservative. This is my thing. When normally people start off young as on the left and move more conservative as they age.
Yeah, I definitely think there should probably be a ban on being an internet creator until you're at least 25. I think that's when your brain fully develops too. Like they've actually found there are parts of your brain that are not fully developed until you are 25 years old. But yeah, every person, I get real irritated when you have, especially established journalists, look at younger people like me that were commenting in the political sphere, or just younger people in general saying dumb stuff on the internet. They're supposed to be guiding younger people. They have more experience, but instead now they're using them for clickbait and articles to call out radicalism and whatnot. When every young person in history has had to sit in a dark room, touch the walls to orient themselves. That's what politics is. It's this big dark room and you don't really understand what's going on or what's around. And you do have to feel around. You have to test some of this radical ideology, test some of that, read a few books. But most people do that in private, right?
Yes.
They have that experience when they're 19, 20, maybe they join their young socialists community, their university, but no one sees that. By the time they graduate university, they're like, okay, these are where my beliefs are at. But yeah, I did all of that publicly. And it's very strange because it's like a time machine, but no one really pays attention to the time except for me. Like I'll be like, oh man, that was a video from 5 years ago. Someone else will watch it and be like, that's Lauren Southern. And they'll talk to me a day later and think they're talking to the same person.
Right.
And there are a lot of overlapping views I still have. I haven't abandoned everything I believe, but certainly my thought process about everything is very different.
So do you think that your views on policies has changed a lot, or is it really just your thought process has changed a lot? Or maybe not a lot, but maybe just somewhat. Because I guess like you were saying, everyone has this kind of conception, the Lauren Southern conception in their mind, and that's not who you are. And they're kind of basing it off of like this older version of yourself. So
yeah,
I guess, like,
I can't blame them though. Like that's stuff I put on the internet willingly, right? They have a right to watch it and come to their conclusions, and then watch what I do now, come to their conclusions. So I can't really blame them.
Right.
I made my bed, but
you're talking like these things are horrible, and I've looked at your stuff and I never really. I watched your videos. I never really thought you were like this right-wing racist, like people try to portray you as. So,
no, I don't think they're that bad either. It's just the way. So this is why I moved to doing documentaries. Is I could get in you need like 40 qualifiers before a conversation for people to understand what you're actually trying to say. This is something, this is one of those thought process things that has really changed in me. I would talk about immigration and I'd be like, there are some serious issues with immigration, right? Like, holy crap, we need to close the borders right now. And I assumed everyone could get from that I meant, hey, like our social systems are going to get overwhelmed. Like this is going to be bad for everyone involved. This is actually going to increase racism because you're going to have civilizational clashes within the society. I just did a video on Sweden where the prime minister, who's left-leaning, has stated they're living in parallel societies from the new 26% uptick of foreigners living in their country. And that's a huge problem. But of course, unfortunately, because of social conditioning and people having different interpretations of people's words, most people watched what I said and assumed, oh, you hate brown people. Is that my fault? Is it their fault? It doesn't really matter. I just need to get better at communicating so they actually understand the points I'm trying to say. And when you're 19, your communication skills just aren't the same as when you're, I mean, I'm only 26 now, but I'm sure I'll be even better when I'm 35 at communicating what I mean. So I look back at that and I'm like, it's not actually the positions that I have an issue with. And this is what gets Twitch lefties so mad is they'll jump up and down and be like, Lauren hasn't changed at all because she won't condemn any of her old videos. And I'm like, well, no, it's because you guys, I'm trying to find a way to reach you and communicate to you so you actually get the message because it's going right past you. And there's a lot of people, I'd say that's like 90% of our political issue right now is people speaking past each other. We see it all the time. People will hate each other and sit down for an hour conversation and realize they agree on way more than they thought they did before.
There's a concerted effort
of communication.
There's a concerted effort though to misrepresent conservatives as racist though. So I respect the fact that you're aware of that and trying to tailor your language so it's not as easy to do. But I'm not sure you can even have a conversation about immigration without people doing it.
Yeah, that's hard for me too, because I also look back and I look at all these journalists that blatantly and deliberately lied about the things I was saying. And I'm like, that was malicious. That wasn't just misinterpreting. And I have to temper myself between, am I just like allowing myself to get gaslit into thinking I'm the problem here? Right?
Yes.
Or,
the answer to that is yes, you are.
Yeah, but does it matter? Like, does it matter? If what I'm saying is not getting through to a huge chunk of the population that it needs to get through to, because I am allowing too many opportunities for journalists to take to lie about me, like what can I do best to temper that? What can I do best to achieve the actual outcome that I want?
It's an interesting dilemma. I'm curious because it seems like there's been a lot of cancellation attempts on you. So you're probably super aware of cancel culture. I'm curious if you have a definition of cancel culture. And I have a very specific definition that Sitch and I often argue over. But I think we're better off separating cancel culture into the attempt to deplatform someone based on falsehoods, based on lies. And I qualify that with, you know, taking shit out of context, all this stuff that people do. You know, it's not something somebody intentionally did. They're really just crafting a narrative that's made up. Do you have a definition of cancel culture you use? And
yeah, I'd agree with that definition, like based on lies, but I'd even say based on truth when it's from a purely malicious standpoint. Like there isn't actually a desire to improve the world through your cancellation. It isn't like, you know, within a church community, this person has done something bad. We're bringing them before the church elders to kind of have checks and balances and see if we can improve. And then we'll publicly talk about it if that doesn't work. You know, even like if you have a problem within your family or your sister or your brother is doing something bad, talk to your parent, talk to them about it first. Talk to the parents about it. Don't log into Facebook at this person, horrible, disgusting, blah, 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 right? If you actually want someone to do better or be better in life, there are a lot of steps you take before trying to destroy their career in life. And I think if you're going from 0 to 100 on trying to destroy someone, you're probably, your desires probably aren't coming from a place of where you're saying they're coming from, because everyone in cancel culture has the noble goal. We're just trying to end racism. We're just trying to end hate. That's why we're destroying someone's life. Okay, great. Well, I mean, within their context, most people fall into hateful, racist, that, and the other. So if there's no redemption, if there's no pathway out of that, well, that goal isn't really going to be achieved, is it?
Do you think you're pretty much uncancelable now? Do you worry about?
Oh no, it feels great because I've been canceled by everyone. what is that, Janis Joplin? Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. You can call me a Nazi, a whore, a leftist spy, Antifa, like all of it, far right, fascist. I have been called everything. There is nothing left. Nothing left.
Are any of these attempts though based on stuff that you've actually done, or is it all just mischaracterizations of your positions?
I think the best lies are ones that come from a bit of truth.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
But it's still ultimately a lie. Can you give us an example?
Oh yeah. Okay. Like something, it's a worse lie in the way that it's more insidious. But like, if let's say you had someone wanted to falsely accuse you of being a murderer or something, and a murder happened in Germany on the 10th of October, and you had a layover flight in Germany at 8 a.m. on the 10th of October, like you didn't even leave the airport. Someone publishing that layover ticket saying you had a ticket to Germany on the 10th of October, so clearly you were involved in the murder, is going to be a much better lie than just like saying that out of nowhere. Like having some piece of truth that they can jump off of that isn't even necessarily associated to the actual crime committed or anything. I feel like a lot of things said about me are like that. Like someone will find some association to the end goal of how they want to paint me and tie me to that. I'm not thinking of this here.
Do you dwell on this stuff at all? I mean, maybe I shouldn't be asking these questions.
Oh, of course. I'm a human being. Well, yeah, of course I do.
I mean, you're saying that you feel totally free of cancel culture. Are you at all? Like, I guess you seem more free than me as far as like tailoring your speech and stuff like that. So, we have another disagreement. Maybe you have an opinion on. So yeah. You probably, were you at the Charlottesville thing? I don't know.
I was not. Okay. This is what's so funny talking to people about my life is they have many.
You're such a part of the
details.
History.
Yeah, they have so many like details mixed up, and like they'll think, oh, are you that blonde girl or this blonde girl? Half the time
first of all, you never
mesh some of my life events with like Tommy Lauren or Faith Goldie or whatever.
There's one right-wing blonde girl that's evil. Okay. They're all you.
You never answered on whether or not you discovered Jordan Peterson. I feel like maybe you did.
I don't want to take credit for that kind of stuff, but I was the first person who was reporting on.
Take credit.
Why?
Hold on. Stand tall.
I do remember like the first Jordan Peterson video that went viral. You were there, weren't you there filming it? You filmed it, right?
Yeah, I filmed all the first protests. I filmed his first interview on SJWs with him. I had dinner with him and his family before he like blew up and everything. Wow. It was the funniest thing because obviously nobody knew who he was at the time, so I knew no details. And I sit down for this family dinner with Jordan, Michaela, their kids, and they just serve meat. And I'm looking at this table like, what is going on here? But I'm not complaining, but it's just like a bowl of chicken wings, steak.
Wow.
Even back then they were doing the all meat
absolutely.
Thing. Wow. Oh, I thought that was recent.
It the strangest thing of my life. And I hung out with Michaela Peterson a few times before, she had any business in the public eye. And I find it annoying when people call her like this like meat diet grifter, because I remember we sat down at my place and had wine, and all she talked about the whole time was this like amazing diet thing that is like saving her life. And that's before she had like any social media, right? So that was obviously something that was like very important to her and that she's been working on for a long time. So, but everyone has their ideas about people.
So wait, the first video like of Jordan Peterson talking to that college student, was that you filming that, or did you cover that?
She covered the talk, right? He went and did the talk in front of the.
Yeah, I spoke there as well. Actually,
cool.
Yeah, so I have all of
it was a free speech thing, right?
Yeah, it was crazy.
How come you don't want to take credit for discovering Jordan Peterson? I would be all over that. Like I would put that on my CV.
Because I think if it weren't me filming, it
would have been someone else. You're so humble.
I know. Stop being humble. Okay. Take credit for this one. People are giving you credit for all sorts of bad things you didn't do. Okay. Take credit.
This is the thing, though.
All of his ideas. I ghost wrote all of his books.
I knew it.
But people would spin this into a bad thing. They would be like, she's the one that discovered that right-wing Nazi Jordan Peterson. Like they would totally turn it into some horrible thing.
That's true.
But I'm a worse Nazi than him. Maybe. Actually, I don't know. I wonder how they'd put me on like the hierarchy of Nazis.
I think you used to be worse, but now it's flipped. So
really?
Yeah. That's the hierarchy of evil Nazis.
We get called Nazi all the time, and we're not even on the right, so.
Yeah, I had trouble. I was looking at your videos. I was trying to discern what your political beliefs were, and I appreciated that I couldn't. Just from a brief scroll of your only reading headlines.
It's tough.
The worst.
It's tough to build an audience that way because people they want to know, like, okay, this person's on my team. I don't want to invest in this content unless I know, they're with me. And, we've taken positions on, obviously things come up. The Ukraine thing was fascinating because all of a sudden the right wing just went in a completely different direction than us. So we were kind of against our audience on the Ukraine stuff.
Well, certain elements of the right. I don't think there's like a unified right wing opinion on Ukraine, really.
You did a talk on Ukraine, Lauren, where you had used a metaphor of a barroom brawl with a teen who is being bullied by the bar to go out and get in a fight that is well beyond his ability. I didn't like that metaphor because
all right, let's hear why.
Well, I would think of it more. Well, the barroom brawl takes out of the equation that it's an ongoing situation because a bar is something you show up at, you have a drink and you can go home. You can never go back to that bar again. I would say this is more like your kid going to school and being bullied. Now, do you give the same advice to your kid going to school getting bullied that you do to the kid in the bar? You said it was a bad idea to prod the teen to go fight the guy outside the bar, I believe was your position.
Right. So let's say the bullying, obviously, this is just for the purpose of the analogy, but the bullying is just like the kids walk by and they like smack him with the textbook on the back of the head every day or whatever, right? And then you're another kid in the school and your advice to the kid is go challenge them all to a fight outside, knowing full well he's going to lose.
To put it more in the like Ukraine realm, though, I think it's more like they're stealing his lunch money or stealing his books, or because Putin has been stealing from Ukraine, basically taking land and shit.
Okay, all right. You know what? Better example. It's really crappy. They're stealing his lunch money every day. They're hitting him in the back of the head. Like it's a horrendous situation. And you're this kid's friend, allegedly, right? More like a Regina George style friend. And you say, go fight them outside. This has to end now, right? This has to end now. But you say that knowing full well they've got a loaded handgun and they're going to shoot him in the face when he gets outside. I still don't think, I don't think the friend saying go out and fight, knowing this kid is going to get killed, is the good guy. Because I think maybe losing some lunch money and getting smacked in the back of the head is better than getting shot in the face.
I guess my problem with the analogy is how was America, because obviously America is the one in the analogy that's pushing Ukraine to go fight Russia. And how did America push Ukraine to fight Russia? It seemed like Russia on its own decided to put all these troops on the border, and America kept saying, don't attack, don't attack. And Russia's like, we're not going to attack. And then they attack. So I'm not like seeing, Ukraine really starting the situation.
I think that's, I'm not saying Ukraine started it. I don't think Ukraine started it, but it's obviously there's a level of negotiation for territory that has already been lost, ironically enough, that could have happened earlier. And I know people look at that, they're like, that's appeasing the beast, right? Well, fine. I agree. Don't appease the beast, but you have to appease the beast if the beast is just going to eat you. Like if that's the two options. If it were don't appease the beast and America, the UK, Australia, all of these like larger nations are going to come and stop the beast from encroaching, that's a different question than, oh, we have to give something up or we're going to lose it anyways and die.
Sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with the bully, though. The bully is an ongoing problem.
Right. But you still have to, you still have to have some wisdom around that. And right now, it looks like people are looking at it and they're like, Russia is getting demolished, right? They're getting obliterated. And it's like, well, no, they're actually taking a different level of warfare where they're trying not to, if they wanted to level the cities, they could. They don't want to level the cities because they want to capture a lot of these cities in Ukraine still functioning. They don't want a nation of rubble that they're going to absorb into themselves. And they don't want to turn the people there too much against them. Although the longer this conflict goes on, the more that happens.
It's a little late for that.
Yeah. Although, in the Donbass region, they do have a lot of support anyways, regardless. But they're not fighting a war that's like just blitzkrieg, right? They're fighting a war that's slow and they're just going to keep moving forward. And they are winning. Like the Ukrainians fighting back. I had a friend of mine who's there on the ground describe it to me as when they went and fought there for the first time in their lives, because he had fought in Afghanistan for the first time in their lives, they felt like the Taliban. They felt like the ones hiding in bushes with AKs while you have Predator drones and missiles and stuff in the sky, air superiority from this massive Western nation, because it is a superpower. Russia's a superpower and they've got a proper military, and the Ukrainians are the guys in the bushes hiding, having missiles rain down on them. It's a very different circumstance. It is not even close to a fair fight right now. And unless another superpower plans on joining that fight, which they won't, I don't think anyways. I've been wrong before. Ukraine's just, it's not going to be a good time for them. And these are people's families dying, right? In this gamble. It's people's boyfriends, fathers, sons. They're dying for something that, it's kind of a 300 style, like we're going to stand. Yes, you may win, but we're going to make it painful for you. The problem is with the 300, they all chose to went there. They all chose to go there. In this situation, they're being forced. They don't get to choose. Do I want to take this suicidal stand, or am I going to leave with my wife and kids?
Such a great movie. I love that movie.
I think once the war's over, we're going to learn that the death count, especially for Ukrainians, is astronomical.
Absolutely.
That's not really being talked about. But I'm hesitant to sort of believe either reporting about Ukraine's winning, because we hear from like the mainstream that Ukraine's, blowing Russia away. We hear from not the mainstream that Russia's winning. And it all kind of like shrouded in fog of war. And obviously both sides have heavy propaganda interest in pushing both narratives. So I'm just kind of like, I don't really know who to believe in terms of who's winning or not. But in the terms of, why can't Ukraine and Russia come to a peace agreement? Because the only way I could foresee that is, Ukraine agrees to give Russia, the areas of the Donbass region and Crimea. But in exchange for that, Ukraine is going to need a security guarantee from Russia. And the problem is Russia has already violated twice, at least their verbal and written agreement about not to invade Ukraine when they gave up their nukes. So they're going to need something more solid than that. And the only thing that I could see that would actually be a security guarantee that would make sense for Ukraine to accept would be, okay, we'll give you these regions, but we join NATO and you don't care about it. And I don't see Russia ever agreeing to that.
Yeah, no, I think you're correct there. I would say that, it's really complex because it's like, okay, they want to invade, or this is, of course, the public reason given. They want to invade because they don't want Ukraine to, which should be a buffer state in their eyes, to be a part of NATO, and they're flirting with kind of these Western powers. But then why are Ukraine flirting with these Western powers in NATO? I wonder why,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a lot. It's just way more complex than people are portraying it. And I also have to temper myself. And I think a lot of right wingers need to do this, to not just see a bunch of people doing current thing, getting excited and acting like idiots, and taking the hard opposite position, because all of these people you hate are taking the pro-Ukraine stance.
Do you think that's, I've said that and people get very mad at me. So I want to share some of the anger with you. Do you think that's a lot of the feeling here is just this reaction to a current thing?
I know that's what's happening.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Share the hatred with me.
There's a second part of it that I was just having, if you were watching my live stream with Counterpoints, this argument on right-wingers hate fake media. They hate it because it's just like it triggers the shit out of us. So
sure. I mean, I assume everyone hates fake media when it's not on their side. So
I mean, even if it's just in general, right? So when they see these repeated lies about Russia, they feel they see it and they sympathize more with Russia because they're like, this is what the media does all the time to me, right? They just put out these false headlines saying I'm a Nazi, I'm this, I'm that, I did this. And they start to sympathize. And that's a huge problem I'm seeing with this media. It is just, you know, how wartime information tends to be, but it's a bit worse and exacerbated by Twitter when they see Ghost of Kiev, you know,
right.
Taking down. I saw a tweet yesterday with like 70,000 likes and shares of this photo of this cute little like Ukrainian girl saying she took down 80 tanks, and people are just sharing it like it's completely true. Or a headline in the New York Post last month showed a picture of Putin beside a girl. And the headline was, girl goes missing and it is found dead after criticizing Putin. And then if you read the article, it says her boyfriend murdered her. And she just happened to have a post criticizing Putin on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, right?
Maybe Putin paid the boyfriend, you know.
Right. But people see this and they instantly think, wow, is everything I'm hearing about Ukraine a lie? Are the Russians the good guys? Why are you guys like, if we're the good guys, why do we have to lie? Like, why do we have to make stuff up? I don't understand. And I think that's like a fair reaction for people to have, but then you need to temper that and then just remember that's the media. They lie, they exaggerate, they want clicks.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean that if they happen to say something correct while also lying, the correct thing isn't necessarily false also.
Well, you know, especially with Trump, you know, the media seemed to collectively get TDS, and it was just, you know, they just burned so much of their credibility to the ground over, you know, the 4 years of Trump being president that I understand people's, I mean, I have an instant reaction whenever I see a mainstream media headline. My instant reaction is to think it's probably either not true or it's not the whole truth. And so I get that people are coming from that place, but you have to be careful, because just because someone's wrong about certain things that trigger their biases doesn't mean they're wrong about everything. And every media outlet, every person, you know, they all have their biases that makes them look at the world in a specific way. And you can't just instantaneously, I mean, I don't like a lot of things that, you know, Glenn Greenwald says. I don't like a lot of his biases. He, in my opinion, is, you know, a far leftist, a Marxist, an anti-American bias. But, you know, he did, report on Snowden. He does say a lot of things that are pro-free speech that I like. So we have to temper it. We have to control these urges, our elephant urges in our brain, and look at things in nuanced ways.
In the tension.
That's right. See, look at this. Lauren is
above it all. We're
centrist,
actually floating right now.
Yes.
You can't say that.
All these tribal peons beneath us who are just feng shui to their emotions.
I'm one of the
big brains like us.
I'm one of the people, Sitch. I don't like it when you start getting all erudite.
You're not one of the people. You're not one. Mr. Great Reset supporter over here.
I'm much more one of the people. Hey,
you
Lauren,
support the Great Reset. Damn, gotta go. No.
Well, you seem to have an opinion. Well, I guess you began our live stream saying that you didn't really have a good, like a firm grasp or opinion on the Great Reset stuff. People have asked us to look into the Great Reset, but I just looked into it for the first time a few days ago. So,
dude, every time I look into it, I watched every video I could possibly find of proper economists explaining it, and every single one was like, bro, I'm not even sure I know what any of this means. This just seems like the worst PR ever. The book's confusing. The ad they put out is confusing. What their ideas and goals are, completely confusing. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, the thing is, all this stuff now, you have the ability to look at it two ways. You can look at it through the secret Marxists trying to smuggle wokeness into everything, or you can look at it from, a 60s environmentalist, equality type frame. All the words have dual meanings and all this stuff. So, I mean, if you look at it one way, doesn't seem that bad. I mean, they're for lessening income inequality, for fairness, things that everyone would generally be for. So I don't necessarily
They're for not kicking puppies.
Yeah, basically. Well, I'm like, I don't understand why people are so triggered over it.
Okay, so it's interesting. When I was reading Klaus Schwab's book,
Which one did you read? Because I read
the Great Reset.
I read that. I just read that one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it didn't actually sound, when you read it, like some massive shadowy plan to take over the world. The perception I got was these things are in motion, right? We are in motion to have more surveillance. We are in motion to have more digital identity, more, disease, biological tracking devices, to have all of these economic incentives for environmentalism. And we want to push hard. We want to use our lobbying, because World Economic Forum are obviously a lobbying group that have a lot of governments join and participate. So we want to use our lobbying to push these things that are already in motion and use the pandemic to do so. And you know what, even within his own book, Schwab admits towards one of the last chapters, I think it's even called the importance of acknowledging a potential dystopia or something. And he talks about the show Black Mirror, and he's like, yeah, you know what, these things could potentially happen, but oopsie. And I think he's just a lot more confident that they won't happen. Everyone thinks they're the good guy. Any good villain thinks they're the good guy. Thanos thought he was the good guy. Oh gosh, using Marvel references kill me. Everyone thinks they're the good guy. Like, Klaus Schwab isn't sitting here like thinking he's a super villain, but I just have a lot less faith in humanity, seeing every single government that's amassed a certain amount of power and control over people abuse it. And the control that he's talking about, to the point where it's like Minority Report level predicting events, what he calls like black swan and white swan events. I just see the human rights violations being catastrophic and unlike anything we've ever seen before if we keep going down this path. They do
say that we have to be vigilant against those kinds of things, that the reality of the tools that we need to use to deal with the pandemic could be used for nefarious purposes, and we have to be vigilant to fight against that. Which
he says but he thinks
the name of the chapter is called "The Risk of Dystopia," which I mean, just they understand that this is not something that they're shooting for. So
in my mind, I look at that and they're like, the risk for dystopia, we have to be vigilant,
right?
And to me, they're like, well, we'll be vigilant, we can do it. But I look at that as like a heroin addict telling me he's just going to look at the heroin needle and not use it, right? So I'll be vigilant.
This is my last hit. Okay.
This is my last hit. I know for sure. I'm just going to look at it. I just need to be near it. I'm like, no, I just know human nature. I know that's not going to work out. So like, it's never worked out in history before, but okay.
I think I don't know enough about Klaus to know if he has good intentions or if he's the secret evil neo-Marxist or whatever. But regardless, I mean, I think I tend to agree with you that, you know, we need to have institutions and systems that limit power and create safeguards for people, especially for individual people. And it seems like a lot of the Great Reset stuff, you know, there is just too much government potential for government overreach and too much power that would be given over to some of these organizations.
Yeah.
Counterpoints in the chat says that Lauren supports the Great Reset and that you made Counterpoints eat a bug.
I did.
Is this true?
I'm just preparing people for the eventual future.
Okay. You know? Okay.
I mean, this is such a complicated thing, and in the report they don't necessarily lay out this is what we need to do. Like, that's the thing. When I went to it, especially after watching this debate, I thought, okay, well, this is going to be laid out as their action plan. But the thing is completely laid out as these are the forces that we're dealing with that are, you know, in the environment now already. And this is how things are going to change, basically. And we just need to be ready as, you know, investment and business type people.
I think the concern from the public is that they are a lobbyist organization, right?
Okay.
So it's not just like we're talking about it. It's they actively lobby governments and have governments like join. And whenever rich people meet up together, it doesn't have to be a massive conspiracy theory. Like of course they're going to make business deals. Of course they're going to make agreements. Like it's
right.
And they're going to hold things over each other and have, compounding interests.
So that's an interesting perspective. So you're basically saying they're not going to come out and say in the report, you know, various senators, this is the action plan, you need to fall in line. They're basically just going to word it as this is what's happening, and the senators will take their marching orders from it. That's the thing.
Well, so like I found this very funny. There were all of these like conspiracy websites that are now added to fact-checking sites because they came out with articles saying the Dutch government we leaked documents showing their participation in the Great Reset. And you'll never guess what the fact-checking websites say. They're like, actually, these documents were not leaked. This is a false story that the Dutch government are involved in the Great Reset. The truth is the documents weren't leaked. They were put out publicly by the Dutch government saying they were involved with the WEF and participating in the Great Reset. So that was the correction, that it wasn't a leak, that they actually just admitted to it publicly. And that's why I get so mad at some conspiracy people, because I'm like, you don't have to portray it as this big conspiracy. It's not. Governments are openly doing this. They're openly talking about it. Like it's right in front of our faces. And it's very normal, but just because it's normal doesn't mean you have to support it or like it.
It's their public action plan.
Yes, exactly. It's just the public action plan. It's where we've been headed for many, many years.
Cool. So, do you think Trump is going to run again in 2024?
I kind of hope not.
I have a $500 bet with PSA Sitch that he's going to run. If he runs, I actually win $500. So I'm kind of hoping he does run.
So you hope he does. I'd prefer DeSantis.
I'm invested in this.
Me too. I don't think he's going to run. I think Trump's going to go all the way to as far as he can, and then he's going to say, I'm not going to run, vote for DeSantis or something.
I think the problem is, I talked about this in my last video I uploaded. Trump created, this populist Trumpist movement. And then as soon as he's gone, no one can reimagine it without Trump. So it's not really a lasting thing.
What is Trumpism? What is that? Do you have an idea, conceptualization of that?
It's like I'd say like a reactionary populism to the kind of liberal progressive hegemony we're living in. If that works. Do you call
yourself a populist? I hesitate with that term. I've read some books on populism, and I think my heart is a populist. But then Sitch always pulls me back and says, "No, populism is dangerous."
Yeah, it's dangerous, but I also think sometimes you need it to get things done.
Right.
Well, I wrestle with these thoughts a lot. I'm not going to have too many definitive answers on this. I'm still observing and watching, but let's hear Sitch.
Well, my problem with populism is it's kind of like Marxism in that there's lots of valid critiques, but it seems like it's just so singularly focused on overturning, what is throw the elites out, get rid of all these institutions, get rid of all these systems. It's kind of like what it does is it creates a power vacuum essentially for more nefarious purposes to weasel their way into power. That's my problem with populism. I don't think populism itself is a negative thing. I just think it leads to negative things down the road. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Did you know populism began on the left? That populism was a huge left-wing thing?
Of course, but that makes perfect sense, because if the idea is we need to throw out the elites, that's very anti-hierarchical thinking.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. We live in this kind of bizarre situation where everything's kind of topsy-turvy, where the elites are, controlled by the left. When I think in most of American history, it was the opposite.
Would you call yourself a political junkie, Lauren, or are you more interested in cultural issues?
I'd say I was a political junkie when I was younger. More interested in cultural issues now, for sure. I was like really into energy policy and shit when I was in university. It was weird.
Wow, that sounds incredibly boring. Why do you think they give Elon Musk such a hard time when he's like started 3 companies that are all basically environmentalist type companies?
I mean, I think if they actually cared at all for the environment and not just the aesthetics of being an environmentalist, they'd do a lot of things different. Obviously, my obsession with environmental policy came from being a Canadian, where it's like constantly in your face. We have like eco-terrorism happening all the time here. We've got the oil sands discourse, and it's just so like retarded, the decisions that environmental activists make. They'll go and like blow up a pipeline to stop it and cause more environmental damage than that pipeline has caused in 10 years, right? Through their activism to shut it down every time. And then they'll get like a oil sands shut down, or an oil company shut down. And of course, no one stops driving cars because it's Canada. Everything's really fucking far away. So you have to drive like an hour to get to school, to work, whatever it might be. And so people still need oil and gas. And then we just end up shipping it in from Malaysia Oil, Gazprom, wherever it might be, which then makes that oil and gas travel over the ocean and then in trucks through 1,000 more, far more dangerous ways than just through a pipeline, and being mined by countries and companies that have no interest for environmental offset like goals or anything like that. I hate Canadian environmentalists. They're actually the worst people on the planet.
We just covered a video. I think Philosophy Tube is Canadian, and she did a video.
He's British. I'm sorry, she's British.
Oh, really?
What do you mean? Of course.
Oh, okay. I guess you're right.
I mean, Brits, Canadians, they're like the same thing, right?
Wasn't the video though on a Canadian environmentalist though? I feel like it was.
It was on, I don't know what country it was, but it was on like basically saying that there should be violent revolutions and violent eco-terrorist protests.
Right. Maybe that's why I'm thinking it was Canada.
Right. It was, she had some example of like, I think it was like in Germany or some European country. I don't know.
Do you follow American politics more than Canadian politics? You're Canadian, right?
Yeah, I do. I do, probably just because that tends to be the hub of culture war stuff. But obviously when the trucker convoy was going through, I was down on the ground covering that. Canada finally had our thing. I could not believe that Canada was like causing headlines across the world. I was so impressed with us. And not for doing something like stupid or Trudeau doing some like gay I wore pink socks to the UN meeting or something. It was very nice to be in the media for something significant.
Did you join the protest or visit the protest? I don't know. Are you in Canada?
Yeah, I joined on my coast, British Columbia.
Okay.
I didn't go to Ottawa though.
This seemed relevant to what you were saying earlier in the conversation, Lauren, how you say something and someone reads like a million things into it.
Mm-hmm.
And this perfect example is just taking place in our chat. I'm paying too much attention to the chat today.
I'll get you.
But so Adam said, hey, did you know that populism began as a left-wing movement? And my direct response to that idea is that makes sense because populism is anti-elite, and generally being anti-elite is anti-hierarchical on average, and thus would make more sense to start from the left. And so someone in the chat like takes that idea and runs with it and tries to say like, oh, Sitch is saying that all populism is really Marxist, all populism is really socialist, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not what I said. Yeah. I was responding to a very specific thing that Adam said, and that was it. And I guess it's eternally frustrating to be in the political sphere and to have, you make a very specific statement about one thing and everyone removes the context of it and just they broaden it to basically hate on you, essentially. Yeah,
well, and you have to find a balance between what level of that is their fault and what could we communicate better. And I think that's I've been really pushing on what can I do better, because I can't control other people, right?
That's true, but well, there's a problem because like I don't know if you watched ContraPoints, his videos, but she's so aware of people misrepresenting what she says that she'll take 10 minutes to say like one thing. And then at the end of it, she doesn't really make any definitive claims because of it. So it's like, she's almost like the exact opposite problem. She's trying to be so hyper specific in everything she says that she ends up taking very long times to say nothing of value, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel that there's, I think that's also why it's so interesting, because I'm very self-aware of the fact that my content, I get less viewers than I used to, obviously. Like I'm on a much different curve than I was 3 years ago. And a lot of that is absolutely because I take more time to qualify things. I can totally see that. First videos, you know, go into a Muslim no-go zone. This is a disaster. All these Muslims here have different culture from, you know, Europeans. They need to get out, you know, deport them. It's a mess. Mm-hmm. But then you go in and you do a talk about, okay, so these are other human beings. They've got feelings, families, ideas in life, and they have a right to live within the society and the culture they want. This doesn't really work within a context where it's going to clash in a civilization that has laws that allow for critique of religion, where we have rights for certain groups that they don't agree with. And you start getting into all the convoluted nuances of it and not just black and white. And of course, everyone gets bored and they're like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, people want warriors to dunk on the other side. That's what so much of YouTube is. I totally agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is a small audience out there that's like interested in finding the truth of the matter. That's a thing, because that dunking attitude, I mean, a lot of times you're forced to embrace things that are just untrue to participate in it, which is the problem that I have with that kind of.
Well, I think that's a good distinction, because I love a good deserved dunk.
Yeah,
as much as anyone else. I love to see someone get like utterly, you know, BTFO'd,
annihilated, destroyed, nuked from orbit.
When Jordan Peterson nuked, what's his name? Michael Eric Dyson.
Oh yeah,
from orbit, or you know, Kathy Newman from orbit. But it has to be earned. It has
based
to be deserved.
In fact,
right. And I think, you know, since with everything so clickbait now and everything so audience driven, people are searching desperately for the dunk, so they have to actually create the dunk. And it's always easier to create like a fake one than to find a real one.
Were you watching politics when Trump was in office? Did you cover Trump a lot? I'm curious.
I was. I'd been doing political videos for a couple of years.
Were you a Trump supporter
on YouTube?
I think I've seen you in a MAGA hat.
Yep.
But I didn't know if that was like sarcastic, so I didn't know.
No. I went to. I think I even attended his inaugural ball.
Really?
Wow. Okay. Look at that.
I'm curious, because Trump had a very interesting strategy. We're talking a little bit about, you know, trying to tailor your speech, trying not to get taken out of context, that kind of thing. And I feel like Trump had the ultimate fuck it attitude on all of that stuff. Like didn't make any attempt whatsoever to say something that couldn't be mischaracterized. And I think a lot of his side got frustrated because, you know, you would say things that you were like, okay, well, this is going to get taken out of context. Well, there was two divides on the Trump side. There was a side that was like, if he just dialed it back a little bit, you know, we would be getting things accomplished. And then there was a side that just liked him to do that because they knew people were going to take him out of context and it was going to be a big shit show over it. I'm curious though, because I mean, the election was relatively close. If Trump would have made an effort to do damage control on things like, I mean, every single day on CNN, you could hear someone say, Trump praised neo-Nazis, or Trump, you know, these various memes came out of the Trump presidency. I'm curious if he made an effort to counteract that, if he would be president today.
Yeah, I don't think so. I like when I talk about myself, moderating how I approach things and ensuring that I speak in a way that people can understand. I've got a very different goal than Trump. Like, I think I'm trying to get people to watch documentaries I do to have broader ideas about the world and hopefully even consider some of my more conservative positions. Trump's in a leadership position. He's trying to get his base to come out. He's trying to get votes. He can't afford to look weak. And the media were so poisoned against him at that point. Nothing he could say, like, I literally apologize for everything I've done. This is why I've left the right and have become a left winger. Like, he could do that. And I don't think it would have changed anything. I'm disappointed in Republicans and Trump especially for not taking issues of big tech more seriously. Because when I think about rigged election, I think about media, algorithms, all of that being rigged, not lizard people changing ballots, right? And the fact that he didn't see that earlier, didn't see what was coming with him getting inevitably banned, taken off everything. and didn't try to do more about things like Section 230 was really, really irritating. And I think they laid out their own grave.
So I don't necessarily know if changes to the technological landscape would have made a difference, because Trump is literally the president of the United States. So they're in a position, the media is in a position to cover whatever he says. But it seems like the game that was going on was whatever he would say, they would mischaracterize or paint in the most negative light. So he couldn't necessarily, they would cover it dishonestly, I would say. But he really didn't make an effort to curb that, I don't think.
Yeah, but I think the bigger problem was that the algorithm would repeatedly feed people content that was taking Trump in a negative light. Like, of course, the media are going to interpret him however they want, but a lot of people don't really want to see that media. But they were forced to. It was shoved down their throat. Like, the algorithm on YouTube is completely just like, you know, a corporate... It's all just a bunch of corporate check marks at the top with all of these mainstream press, and you can't find anything other than that. Right. You can't build anything other than that. So I'm not talking about like Trump censoring the media. I'm talking about like these algorithmic problems that exist in big tech, and Republicans not, or even just like the ability, like within Section 230, where you can't sue if it's a platform, not a publisher like Wikipedia, you can't sue them,
right?
Because, we didn't do it, right? So they can call me a white nationalist as much as they want, and I can't do anything about it because it's a platform, not a publisher. Changing some of these policies really would have made media think twice about the types of headlines they put out.
It's funny that you're basically saying that it was an outside force and that Trump really didn't have the control. Where I'm basically saying, I think Trump had a lot of control that he just exercised ineffectively. I think he could have made a big difference. I think the elections are really decided by the moderates in the middle. And the moderates they were convinced that Trump was a racist. They were convinced that Trump praised neo-Nazis. I heard so many people who are just moderate people who don't follow politics at all say, oh yeah, well, he praised neo-Nazis in Charlottesville, and I thought, that's not what happened.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, the fanfics that got written about that dude. I was reading my Wikipedia the other day, and it's still got so much in there that's just like completely made up, and I can't blame people for believing it, right? Of course, while our teachers in elementary school told us don't use Wikipedia as a source, everyone does anyways.
They do, and it's the first thing that pops up when you search. So.
Yeah.
Google that algorithm, it gives you that first. So like Wikipedia now says I held a conference in Moscow with Alexander Dugin, who's like a
people love that guy. That's actually probably good. Everyone's telling us we
got. I didn't. So I'm just like, okay, I guess I did that.
Well, I saw you had an interview with him. Is that what they're talking about?
It says that I did an interview, and then we held a conference in Moscow together. Right. And then it says I'm banned from PayPal, that I can no longer monetize YouTube videos, both things that aren't true. And it just, people, of course, believe these things. And then what happens is it becomes a cycle. So like Wikipedia will write it, and then they'll write it without a source. And then a journalist will go look at Wikipedia and write down what they saw on Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. And then when you ask Wikipedia for the source, they'll use that article to confirm itself.
Do you want to clean that stuff up?
There's no doing it. I've spoken to so many lawyers. It's impossible. I've spoken to the co-founder of Wikipedia about it.
Well, I mean, there are companies that they basically go after the people that write the articles that are cited in the Wikipedia thing, and they threaten to sue them if they don't take down the article, and the people fold pretty easily. So then once the article is gone online, you can contact Wikipedia and say this source is not online, and they're forced to do it. There's specific companies that do this.
It's ridiculous. You have to go through like this channel though.
Okay, so what am I getting wrong then?
It's so much way more complicated than people think. People are like, oh, someone lied about you on the internet, why don't you sue them then? It's like, okay, so Wikipedia is edited by like hundreds to thousands of people are editing these sentences in your article, right? So, and they're all using anonymous username, like, you know, hot dude 6969 just edited your article and called you a neo-Nazi. Well, okay, who is that? Where are they from? Which country? If they're in Canada, I can try to get a Norwich agreement, which is going to cost me a ton of money from a lawyer to basically put a discovery order onto Wikipedia to give us the guy's address and real name so that we can sue him. But then I'm going to have to get that Norwich agreement for potentially hundreds to thousands of people in this article, which is just going to cost, you know, Jeff Bezos level of money to do. And then once you get there, well, you got to start the actual defamation lawsuit. And then in certain regions, you can only sue if there's level of malice put to it. How do you even prove malice? Pretty hard. Also, if it was edited over a year ago, most places you can't sue for defamation, has to be within the same year. So it's like, and then you've got all the articles. Well, we were citing an article. So like, then you'd have to go further and further back. Where did all the information come from? Once you've got such an amalgamation, such a spider web of information, it is actually impossible to sue because everyone has a level of plausible deniability.
I do not like the word impossible. Okay, Lauren, that word totally triggers me. Okay. Well, it's challenging, I'll admit. No, but I think if you had 20 grand, I think you could totally clean it up, to be honest with you.
Bro, do you know what mate? Do you know what the retaining cost is just for?
Well, I mean, which direction are you going though? That's the thing.
No, just
all my experience,
potentially investigating a case like this.
Well, no, I looked into this. There's these companies online that do reputation management. I was curious, just how they actually go about it, because it is something that we talk about a lot. I think you actually were on Tim Pool's show and you were talking about your Wikipedia page. They have these reputation management companies have a very strategic way to go about it that is different than just contacting some lawyer that's going to sue for defamation, a defamation attorney.
So you're talking about like bots and stuff going in.
No.
Have you contacted a PR firm, Lauren?
Yes, a PR firm. That's it.
That's what's
like when Philip Morris has bad stuff on their Wikipedia page, they don't call a defamation attorney. They call a PR firm. Yes, and the PR firm has a completely different attitude.
PR firm would look at my case and like one Google of me and be like, "That's going to be $500,000 for 2 minutes."
Yeah.
Do you think so?
I think so. I think so.
Do you think so?
Ma'am, there's nothing we can do about this. There's like 40 articles saying you drowned.
Start your own PR firm, okay?
Well, I'm curious if I'm just curious if you've investigated it. Like, I feel like 20K is a more realistic goal, but
I don't think so.
Maybe 20K is a ridiculous. I don't.
There's lots of really.
Start with the cosplay feet pics or the killing immigrants. Where should we start?
I would start. Listen, I'm a pragmatist. Okay, I would start with the killing immigrants. Okay, the feet pics will get.
I would start with the feet pics. I don't know what you're talking about.
The feet pics seem pretty easy to get, but it doesn't say that you kill immigrants. I read your Wikipedia page, and I got to tell you, it's insane.
here's why. I don't think it's that easy, because there's lots more, bigger names, richer people than Lauren who are slandered on Wikipedia that haven't been able to clean it up. And I'm assuming they're doing everything they can.
Such as who?
Clean this stuff up.
Well, there's actually there's a case of a guy that's like a billionaire that tried to sue Wikipedia, and even his case was pretty damn complicated. I'm not sure if he ever won. I have to go look back at it. From what I understand, the only person who has successfully sued Wikipedia, or one of the only successful approaches, is if you do it through Google, because Google features Wikipedia, right? So Google is not a platform. So it's not just edited by anyone. Anyone can sign up for Wikipedia and edit it, therefore making it a platform, not a publisher. So you can't sue it for defamation. But people who work for Google, they're a publisher. They choose what is published at the beginning of the page. So you can sue them. So that's the approach that I've been advised by lawyers, but it's $150K for a retaining cost just for advising.
What lawyer?
Any.
So you've talked to one lawyer or multiple lawyers? Well, the PR firm that I talked to, I drilled them for very specifics, because I'm interested in this stuff. I like politics because I like the strategy of it. But they said that they would go. So in Wikipedia, they're citing certain sources, and they basically said the weak point in those sources is usually the author, because the author is scared to death that they're going to get sued. So they go after whoever authored the article. You know, it's a Slate article, right? They're not going to go after Slate. They're going to go after the blogger Slate paid $100 to write the actual article. And as soon as they drop a lawsuit on them, you know, a threatening lawsuit, they're like, I want the article gone. So
most firms want to sue the actual platform because they're the one who has money. Right. And you're probably not even, if you're suing a writer who,
but this is the difference.
It was paid $100. You're going to lose hundreds of thousands.
This is a difference between an attorney who's talking about, you know, getting a large settlement out of a case and a PR firm that's like, it's not even getting a large
settlement. It's about being able to cover your own legal costs.
Right.
You won't even be able to cover your own legal costs if you just sue the writer.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think the issue is, if you have a PR firm that would be willing to do that strategy, Adam,
they do it all day for millions of companies.
I understand.
I think
this is their business
is that the majority,
optimism is cute.
The majority of the money that they're going to get, the majority of the money they're going to get, Adam, is from the clients, and so they'd be charging a lot of money.
This is why I said, like, I asked them specific numbers.
I don't think 20 grand is enough to merit what you're talking about.
Well, they told me like 10K, but I was like, realistically, I think 20K.
For who? For you?
Well, no,
I
did it for Comicsgate. Comicsgate has a web page, has a Wikipedia page that basically said Comicsgate is all a bunch of Nazis. I called them to talk to them about cleaning up the Wikipedia page for Comicsgate. Right. And I wanted specifics on numbers and how they did it specifically. And I talked to a couple people there. They gave me the details. I'm repeating these details to you.
I see.
But they have a business model. Listen, if you're a fucking dentist in Muskogee, you've got different shit that shows up online that you want to get rid of. You have money you're going to pay for. There's companies that their business model is to clean up people's Wikipedia pages. They do this for a living.
Here's what you should do. You should
they were very specific. They were very specific. They said, listen, Wikipedia is the challenge of all challenges, but we can do it. And here's how we do it. And they gave me the rundown on how they do it. They're like, here's the weakest link in the chain right here. You go after these sources. They even gave me a report on some of the sources. And I thought, you know, this would just be fun because there are certain people, I don't know if you follow Comicsgate or whatever, but Comicsgate is like the people on YouTube that are independent comic creators, and the SJWs go crazy trying to cancel their books and call them Nazis online and write all these articles on different websites. It's a very similar situation. I'm sure you're very familiar with it, Lauren. So, but these various writers who are all just pieces of shit, fucking lying dirtbags, they write on these various websites. I think like Comic Book News is one of them. I can't remember the name of the websites, but the idea of paying an attorney to drop a fucking huge lawsuit on one of these dirtbag writers sounds cool to me. I mean, it sounds fun.
It does. It does.
So,
and I think
it would suing be nice a platform is not fun. I want to go after Rich Johnson. That guy's a fucking prick. Fuck that guy. Okay.
It would be nice if there were more lawyers willing to, you know, I guess, volunteer their time to do that.
Lauren,
but unfortunately,
name a name. Who wrote these articles? Let's get the bastards. Come on, Lauren.
Oh, trust me, I've paid money.
Who are some of these pieces of shit? Who are some of these writers?
Here's what you need to do, Adam. You need to get Comicsgate people to all pitch in to pay this $10,000 to see if this actually works.
Sitch, I'm way ahead of you, but we already have one crowdfunding campaign going.
Okay.
Need another water.
You sneak out. You need to get Ethan and all these people to pitch in the 10 grand to do this, because if this works, you can use this as the test case. You can show the internet. You can show the world, say this is possible. Then you'll get people like Lauren on board who are doing this.
This is the thing, though. Lauren would be a much better test case because, you know, I think the Comicsgate Wikipedia page might actually be making Comicsgate more money in the long run. I think actually. I think Rich Johnson might actually be good for Comicsgate. Like that might actually be he might be the biggest money maker for us. So I don't necessarily know if it's a good idea to do it. That was my ultimate assessment when I dove into it.
But here's the problem. You have to be somewhat skeptical when you're dealing with the company that does it, because obviously they're going to say that they can successfully do this.
Sitch, do I sound 5 years old to you? I'm curious.
You do a little bit, and how you're very optimistic on this, which I like your optimism, kid, but I'm not confident.
Listen, I understand sales, okay? It's all ESG, sales bullshit, okay? I can see right through sales bullshit from a million miles away, but the logic that they laid out to me doesn't sound like a bunch of flim-flam to me.
No, it's all logical. I understand that.
Right.
I'm just saying I'm skeptical of it coming to fruition so cleanly the way they're putting out. Lots of people have been fighting this.
You know what I usually do in this kind of situation?
The Fine People hoax is a perfect example. Okay.
No, that's huge. What I usually do in this situation is I say, listen, I'm interested at 20K. Why don't you give me a couple of references that I can call and hear what their experience was like? And that's where I would start. But you go ahead with your what you were saying.
Well, I just, if it took basically Scott Adams had to call, the founder of Wikipedia to get the Fine People hoax fixed. And then I think shortly after it was changed back. Anyway, I don't see how what you're laying out just doesn't seem, you should try it. You should have Comicsgate try it. Should have some organization.
Like I
just don't think it's going to work.
Let's see, Lauren Southern. Oh, number one search.
I'm so black.
The Wikipedia.
Yeah, I think the problem is that a lot of our laws, at least in America, they're all based around print journalism, and they're not really based around this new internet environment where someone Googles you and the first thing that comes up is Wikipedia, and it's a bunch of fucking anonymous mods who are framing things in incredibly incendiary political ways, in very dishonest ways often.
Yeah, and the pages are locked too, so no one can go and fix it. And all of the mods that have, contradictory opinions to the leftist hegemony on there get banned. There's a really good guy on Breitbart, Devil's Advocate. He writes some articles for them about his experience getting banned from editing on Wikipedia. But yeah, I'm super black-pilled. I've spoken to too many lawyers. I've spoken to too many tech people. Like I've spoken to the co-founder of Wikipedia himself about this all, and they've all essentially told me like you'd have to be a millionaire to even get a tiny budge on this. So I've kind of accepted.
We got to get a millionaire.
Was this co-founder the one that talks about Wikipedia being full of shit now and is totally regretful that he ever created the thing?
Yeah, Larry Sanger.
Yeah, that guy's totally cool.
He is cool.
Yeah, it's tough, but I mean, this is how you can tell Lauren is actually a conservative. She's so defeated over this whole thing. All optimism has left the room here. She's just okay. I
mean, I was black-pilled on Wikipedia back from the Gamergate. The Gamergate article was insane, and people were fighting over that from the beginning, and they couldn't even.
You're supposed to be on my side. You're my fucking co-host here.
Well, I'm not. They couldn't even get the Gamergate article to be fucking neutral, that's the problem. Is that Wikipedia should be a neutral encyclopedia, and if there's some controversial political figure, it just neutrally says, one side says this,
just states the facts.
Period. Right. Just the facts, ma'am, and that's it. And we can't even get that. So
you've never. People are like, why are you always drinking when you do these political shows, Lauren? Especially like Timcast or anything, and you got to just laugh at it. You got to find it funny.
Well,
that's true.
Yeah.
You seem to care to some extent. Otherwise, I mean,
that's why you're drinking.
I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, Adam.
Why?
I don't.
You just said this whole conversation, this whole side quest began with you saying, "I just looked at my Wikipedia page this morning" or something. It was like, why are you looking at your Wikipedia page every day?
I'm not. No, it wasn't this morning. It was actually that day after Timcast, because he brought it up. And oh no, I don't want to give you a white pill. I don't think you need.
Give me a white pill.
Give us something. We love white pills. I am the optimist. I am the optimist.
They took white nationalists off my Wikipedia.
What?
There you go.
I know, and it's been on there for years.
What?
Little things. Okay.
So how can you be so black-pilled? We're making progress. We're going in the right direction here.
Oh, wait a minute. I have some bad news.
Is it back?
It's
No.
back.
What?
I'm so sorry. I just took your white pill and I just threw it on the ground instead.
What happened? How did it come
says-
back?
Happened
It says-
in the last week. See, I didn't even check it
It
today.
says some academics and journalists have described Southern as a white nationalist.
See,
Okay, so
right
no,
here.
no. Listen, that's still better because it used to be the first sentence. Lauren Shree Southern, a white
Oh,
nationalist.
they moved it down the page.
Oh, I see. Well, now it's the third paragraph, so there you go.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Way
matter.
better.
If you click on that alt-right, it's all over, though. You know the alt-right page is completely... I mean, just look at the picture that pops
I
up when you
know.
hover over it.
Oh, there you go. It says you deny being a white nationalist, so I guess
that wasn't there before.
I guess that's something.
as well. So that was something.
You don't classify
Moving
yourself
up in
as
the
a white
world.
nationalist, Lauren?
No.
Okay.
I feel like people are gonna be like, that took too long.
Pause. Yes,
Every
there you
yeah,
go.
pause. I'm sorry, I keep doing this thing and I'm hyper aware of it. I
What?
forgot to mention it earlier. I keep like grabbing and pulling my lower lip because I saw this video of Vosh doing it that looked funny, but now it's actually becoming a habit. So I just wanted to call that out.
That's not good.
Don't do that. Yeah.
No, it's not
now,
good.
now everyone's going to fixate on it.
First, you start pulling your lips, then you get in an open relationship. You know, it's just that's the road to to degeneracy. Okay.
Did you know Vosh came out as gay now? Vosh is completely gay. He chose.
I feel like there's
he
so
chose
many,
27 to come out as gay. He just discovered that he is attracted to men.
As soon as he's attacked by the
Wait, no, does he
LGBT
mean
community.
bi?
Yeah,
Well,
he
he's
used
like
to say he
full
was
gay
bi.
now.
No, he says
just-
he's full gay now, I think.
Is it wrong? Is it wrong to be doubtful of someone actually being homosexual just on claiming they're homosexual, just on the fact that Vosh is like a huge, he's like a huge internet celebrity, right? Somebody who he had a homosexual relationship with is going to step up and try to get some clout off that, right? I mean,
Yeah, as long as there's clout attached to your sexuality, you can trust no one.
yes,
No one.
totally.
Right.
So
Well, and look,
why wouldn't gay guys be coming forward and say, "Oh yeah, I hooked up with Vosh at a party back in college"? Like, why
It's-
wouldn't that be
listen.
happening?
Listen, Adam, we don't
I'm
want to
sorry, my
gatekeep
friends.
here.
My son just woke up and I can hear
no.
him running down the stairs.
If you have to
trying
go-
dox himself. He's
Yeah,
about to jump on camera.
If you have to go, that's cool. Thanks. Do you any social media or anything you want to plug before you take off?
Yeah, at Lauren_Southern on Twitter, Lauren Southern on the YouTubes. And let's do this again on a day that I have more time. This has been fun. Do you just do Sundays usually?
We do
Sundays
Sundays
and
and Tuesdays. And if there's any
Tuesdays.
topic that comes up,
Or if there's
You
a
know,
video you
let
want
us
to
know.
watch,
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
Will do. Tuesdays are perfect for me. I will see you guys again soon. This was fun. You have a good show going here.
take care.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Take
care.
some white pills.
Bye.
Adam, you can't use racist language. Okay.
What did I
Like
say?
that. White pills. Come on.
Oh, okay. I thought I actually used racist language or something.
We just looked at the Wikipedia page. Okay. You can't say white pills. What does that mean? That's some sort of, secret code.
Oh,
lingo.
take some. I guess you're right. It does sound bad, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
It does. It does.
Oh, it does. It says white nationalists in the second paragraph. I got it.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to end with that, in case it gets clipped, which is that I think it's fair to question someone's sexual orientation, especially someone like Vosh,
Mhm.
when they have a history. They've had girlfriends. They have a history of literally sex pesting women, and then suddenly all of this like I'm gay stuff only comes out directly after the LGBT community is attacking Vosh because of his really, his misogynist attack on J.K. Rowling. And now suddenly he's saying he's gay. I don't know. That's where I think I'm like, this is pretty sus to me.
We have a number of gay people in the Sitch and Adam
Yes.
community.
That's right.
I think it would be fun to maybe invite a couple of them on to watch that video I sent you of Vosh talking about his discovery that he is gay.
They can judge him.
And
they can say, is your gaydar going off? On
Yes.
this? Yes. Is this bullshit?
So if we had some honest to goodness gay people that went through this
There you go.
experience, they might have a different take. I'm only going off of the one video with Andrew Sullivan and the like 3 other gay people on that podcast. I'm only going off of that's the only information I have to go on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that video, Vosh did a video recently where he talks to, I don't know who the guy is, and I don't know if he's gay, but it seems like if I was gay and someone was using homosexuality as a way to protect themselves from certain PR problems, I'd be pretty offended by that. Wouldn't you? Sitch,
Yes.
wouldn't you?
Yes.
Would you, if someone was pretending to be Jewish because they were a huge, giant anti-Semite? Would that make
I would be very incensed. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It feels like he's lifting this as a shield to protect himself from, the fallout of the J.K. Rowling stuff.
Yeah.
But
so, I mean, that would be fun to listen to that. Maybe invite Danimal on and see what he has to say about it.
there you go. Someone chat says you either die straight or live long enough to become the gay.
Well, he said the one thing in the video that made me, like, he was trying to remember when he had his first gay experience, which just didn't seem authentic to me, right? I mean, okay.
Your theory is that you think something's going to come out where he, I don't know, used the F slur or said something very negative and he's just circumventing.
I think it could, yeah. I think
Okay.
there could be some really nefarious shit that he's getting in front of, but enough about him.
Let's we have like a bunch of super chats.
Probably some for Lauren too, which is
Yeah.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.